Hello and welcome to another edition of BB's Finds. Today's a very special garage edition. This is one of the only shows on YouTube where a guy extemporaneously talks about his collections, the history behind his collections, and his history with the collections that he has while sitting in a garage. Usually it's sitting in a closet chair by his wife, but today, because of the venue and because of the topic, I think it's more appropriate to sit here in the garage. I've got my one of my many media shelves behind me. This is the CD cassette area. You can see up top I got some of the Lord of the Rings CD sets. Those are like the abridged version. Fun to listen to. Plethora of CDs that I've got through the years. It's kind of been a revolving door. I still do collect CDs from time to time. If I can find them, something's interesting. A lot of soundtrack stuff and mostly heavy metal rap, kind of like underground rock stuff, some jazz, things like that. I'm not talking about that, and neither am I talking about politics. I got my Mondale Ferraro '84 shirt on, thrift store find nonetheless, but not going to talk about politics today. What I am going to talk about is cult television. So most of my television DVD collection. It's a fairly smallish collection, I'd say, because of a lot of things you can find nowadays streaming, and the value of the things that you can find streaming have gone down. So there's really no need to hold on to them for either rarity purposes or future appreciation. Most of this stuff is just stuff I enjoy, stuff that I really can come back to, stuff that it typically is not on Netflix or other streaming services. There's one or two bootleg type stuff in here, and there's just some super rare stuff in here as well. So let's kick it off. I got probably my in my top 5 shows of television shows of all time. I got 3 sets that I want to share. Two of them come from a show that I've already talked about extensively on this channel, Twin Peaks. So I've got the Definitive Gold Box Edition. Here it is, of the first and second season of Twin Peaks that originally aired on ABC. This was the show done by David Lynch and Robert. I'm dying. David Lynch and Mark Frost. We've been out of school for a little while. So it's extemporaneous speaking about my collections, and I'm bungling names and naming poets and things like that. A lot of good bonus features on this. A lot of good deleted scenes and some insights to the kind of the secrets behind Twin Peaks. This is a series that actually does run on, I believe, still runs on Netflix. It was running on Showtime for a time in conjunction with the Twin Peaks limited series, Twin Peaks: The Return, which is what I'll talk about next. So here it is. I haven't cracked this one yet. I watched the series once. I bought the DVD set just because I'm kind of a Twin Peaks nut. Did not crack the DVD set yet, but there are some special features and stuff on here that I hope to get to pretty soon. This is if you like the original, this is a little bit of a departure from the original, but very bizarre and more bizarre in many ways than the original. Again, I'm talking about cult television today. Twin Peaks is like, for me, it's like prime cult television. I'd say definitely in top 5 for me. So that's Twin Peaks. Put these down here, stay a little organized. Next up, one of my favorite shows from the 1960s, The Prisoner. This is the AMC version of the box set, the original edition of The Prisoner. Patrick McGoohan stars as this guy who's in sort of like the CIA situation, but it was in England, kind of like a secret dude who knew a lot of stuff. Gets gassed, ends up in a place called the Village. Can't escape the Village. They're basically using him for his knowledge of things, and there's a lot of manipulation. It's a very cerebral, kind of heady series. There's only, I'd say, probably about 20 episodes or so of The Prisoner. Highly recommended. It's a very easy watch, easy to get through. Some of it does seem a little dated though, in terms of the sets and things like that, but think it has its own feel. I've never seen a TV show that has like a feel quite like it. The music is pretty good too. I can't recall the guy who did the soundtrack or the soundtrack score for the films or shows rather. It's got, yeah, like I said, about 20 episodes. There's a lot of it's almost like a thriller in a way, because there's a lot of like cerebral mind, just kind of weird stuff, like what's real and what's not real kind of stuff going on. About this village that he's essentially trapped in. They did AMC did a remake of this. I think probably, I say right around like 2008, 2010, something like that. Really, it was, I mean, it was okay, but I think it fell flat compared to the original. I think the original is like probably one of the best. I've dressed up as number 6, Patrick McGoohan, for Halloween. It's a good costume. Very easy to wear. Just the black jacket, and the he has like a little it's a button with a I forget, it's like a kind of like an old timey bicycle. It has like a number 6 on it, like a red number 6. Did that one year, and I think the few people at that party who actually knew what I was gave me some high fives. Good times. So that's Prisoner. I want to talk about my favorite show of all time. Probably not going to come as a surprise to most people who know me, but it's the '66 Batman. Classic television. Batman, the original kind of comic book character, not really meant to be like comedic, but I think this was more of a takeoff on the whole like superhero genre, and just kind of make things a lot more funny. I mean, what can I say that hasn't been said about this? This is like Adam West's performance is like, I mean, it's Adam West. I mean, second to none. All of the villains, you know, they had like sort of villain of the week, and the way they did the shows was very interesting too. It would be like every show would be 2 parts. You'd have to tune in to see what happens next. There'd be a cliffhanger, and then there'd be basically if you watch it in real time without the commercials, 44 or 45 minute mini movies of Batman. Some of the villains, or like the rogues gallery of villains in this, just incredible. Like it's not like anything like the animated series did or anything like that. It's more just the kind of campy. I mean, there's like the Bookworm, the Egghead, you know, very early incarnation of Mr. Freeze, King Tut, and then you had the classic villains like Penguin, Joker, Catwoman, and the Riddler, all done by just second to none actors of the day. Cesar Romero did the Joker. Still one of my favorite versions of the Joker. It's very 60s, kind of campy, like, but that's why I love it. I mean, I'm putting it in the cult kind of bin, because for me, I think this would be considered maybe a little bit unwatchable for some people, just because of the campiness and the sameness and the formulaicness of the episodes and the lines and things like that. But I think that for me, that's what like all the Robin, like Holy Rusted Metal Batman. The one I think about is the Batman '66 movie. My friend and I always joke about the what weighs was it like 12? What weighs 12 ounces and sits in a tree and is very dangerous. It's a sparrow with a machine gun. Just things like that. There's like very odd, bizarre kind of humor in it. I wouldn't say it's like I wouldn't say it's like the dumbest type of humor, like, but I think there's something about this show it's just funny and like fun to watch, and it's kind of a trip back to my childhood. I do remember watching in right around 89 or 88 when the Keaton Batman movie came out. I do remember they were showing all the episodes on television. Now what's kind of interesting about this DVD set is it wasn't released until, I think it was 2014 it came out. So there was an issue with the licensing. You would have thought that it would probably come out in 2000 or so, but because of the licensing issues, it was held up for many years. And me, along with people that are super fans of the show, and can quote way more lines than I can, we're waiting forever. So 2014 rolls around, got this bad boy, there's also a Blu-ray version. I think there's one that comes with a little Batmobile Mattel, that was a Hot Wheels car or something like that. For me, I really don't need anything like that, like collector, manufactured scarcity type stuff. I like having stuff to watch. This is good stuff. So up next, I kind of want to divide this into three kind of genres. The first one is something that I've probably been a fan of the longest. In well, let's just say, okay, let's just call this genre comedy. Even though this is in a very cult context, what I've been a fan of, there's probably half of this stuff is what I've been a fan of the longest, and that's sketch comedy. I started watching sketch comedy at a very young age, probably because of my father. We watched Monty Python, and he always referred to the different sketches from Monty Python. And I still think it's the funniest stuff ever. From there, I started watching like MTV's The State, and it was just kind of like the absurdity of the jokes and the absurdist style humor. And then I kind of found other stuff like Kids in the Hall, and I think that was like my first real fandom. I think even before music, which is kind of crazy because I've been like a music head forever. Is watching sketch comedy. But before then, there was some other stuff that kind of had an early influence on me. One of them is a television show called Pete and Pete, which was a very weird children's television show that was on Nickelodeon, featuring these young gentlemen, Pete and Pete, brothers. They and their exploits. The show is definitely a cult show. It's not for everyone, but it has a very unique sense of humor. A lot of almost like it's very 90s in a way. Like a lot of like Michael Stipe was in an episode playing an ice cream man or something like that, and just things like that. You know, just little Easter eggs here and there about the show. I do have the soundtrack from the show as well by a band called Polaris. They released it on CD in I think a pretty limited run in the day. I found a copy of it. I was lucky enough to find a copy of it at a thrift store. And they have since there's since been a kind of a resurgence of this stuff, and they've repressed the record, soundtrack to Pete and Pete, and they reissued the CD as well, I believe. Got the original issue here. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's probably a $30 or $40 CD in the market, but just fun to listen to the music. It's very, I mean, it hasn't aged like super well, but it's still kind of fun to listen to for nostalgia purposes. So here's season one. Season one DVD is actually a little easier to come by than season two. There's only, I think there was 3 seasons, and season 3 is in like the Batman stuff is in sort of limbo in terms of when they're going to release it on in a digital format or DVD, physical digital format. So optical, if I'm being correct in my verbiage. So yeah, season 2 of Pete and Pete. It's good stuff. They got some good ones on here. It's a fun show. You also got like Are You Afraid of the Dark? And Clarissa Explains It All. I'd say Pete and Pete is definitely like the more cult of the bunch. Up next, we got one that I'm leaving sealed. And the reason why I'm leaving it sealed is because it's a Region 2 DVD. Yeah, it's a Region 2 DVD. Gareth Marenghi's Dark Place. This is a fun show. You can find this on YouTube. I think there's only about 6 episodes of this show. It's completely nuts. It's insane. It's one of the funnier things and weirder things I've seen. The premise is this guy is an author, Gareth Marenghi, and he's sort of recounting his shows, or his ideas, his stories. He's almost like a Stephen King type, like a very like a writer that takes himself like very, very, very seriously. And but there's humor in that. Like Matt Berry from who plays what's his name, Laszlo from What We Do in the Shadows. The TV version of What We Do in the Shadows is in this. He's hilarious. That guy's so good in anything. And we got one of the dudes from the IT Crowd's in it as well. It's really, yeah, it's funny because like they use different names as the actors that play these characters. So there's like all these like meta layers on this thing, and it's only, I mean, the episodes are only like 12 minutes each, There's like horror elements to it and like thriller elements to it. It's all over the place. It's just crazy. Again, I'm not going to open this up just because it's a Region 2. I don't have a Region 2 player. I have to go to the UK or buy a boot Region 2 player here in order to play it. YouTube videos are fine for now. I just like having this around just because it's so nuts. Okay, so up next we have this one. It's called Get a Life. You may recognize this guy, Chris Elliott. This is one of his first forays into the mainstream. A very cult show. This I think has only lasted like one season. Extremely absurdist humor, very funny. I think that for me, the first time I remember seeing this was actually the pilot episode. I think it aired on Fox back in the day, either before or after Married with Children. Probably, I want to say like right around the 89, 90, 90, according to the back of the box here. But what I remember about that show is Chris Elliott's character in the pilot episode gets stuck in the middle of a loop on a roller coaster, and he like tries to open a soda and chips and stuff, and they just fall out. I still think that's hilarious. For some reason, Chris Elliott went on to do so many other just crazy and good things. He's such a good character actor too. He was in Cabin Boy, such a funny movie. People kind of hate that movie. It's kind of like low hanging fruit to hate that movie to me, but you know, he was actually in Schitt's Creek, the Canadian television show with Eugene Levy's son, Catherine O'Hara. Super funny show. We just finished the last season of it, season 6, which was released I think this spring. But yeah, he plays the mayor, Roland Shit. So it's kind of a funny name. But yeah, here he is, very young Chris Elliott, and he finds himself in all these comedies. He kind of plays the same character he plays in most stuff. He's a little bit scummy in this. But yeah, it's good stuff. He plays a paper boy, like a professional paper boy. Up next, we have another classic, BBC Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Very limited run, 6 episodes. I really dig the film style. It's almost what I call fever dream, where it doesn't seem like I've seen like some science fiction shows when I was a kid that are just like waking up in college at like 1 a.m. and having these like random weird science fiction shows playing on like NBC after I fall asleep watching like Saturday Night Live or something. But yeah, it just seems like a very like fever dreamy type situation. But it's classic, you know, it's the classic Douglas Adams Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The movie version of it came out, was it like Martin Freeman and Mos Def? Mos Def plays Ford Prefect, yeah, and what's his name? Rockwell. Sam Rockwell plays Zaphod Beeblebrox. It's a pretty funny movie, but I'd say like this series is like a little more in depth just because they have more time to kind of flesh out the book. It's about 190 minutes. It's from 1981, the year of my birth. It's great. I mean, if you like science fiction stuff, it's very weird and very like Monty Python, British humor style stuff, and you know, it's good. I highly recommend if you haven't seen it. Highly recommend reading the book too. The book is, I think, better than all you know of the movies and book. The book is best. Here we have the State complete series. This is the one that kind of started me on the path. Like this is like the first sketch group I found. It was on MTV, but you know, in the day it was kind of like I could see people thinking this was like really stupid. The sketches were a little bit weird and like very Gen X-y. Like some of the jokes just like I think if people like young people watched it now, like the jokes would just kind of fall flat. Recently went on a Zoom call with these guys. They did some charity benefit thing for NAACP and the farming a co-op type charity here in California, and yeah, it was like $20 to watch them reenact sketches from what's known as they called them unaired sketches, but to me I know them because I had a VHS tape called Skits and Stickers for a long time, and it was most of those most of those sketches that they reenacted. Super hilarious stuff, still funny. I can still quote them like it was 1994, 95 when this stuff was out. This was only out for like 3 seasons, I think, and they wanted, in classic like MTV fashion, they wanted like a recurring character and like catchphrases and things like that, and they pushed back really hard. They have Doug, the character that says "I'm out of here," and they have Louie, the guy who wants to dip his balls and everything. I want to dip my balls in it. So it's real funny and very kind of just Gen X-y and like real punk rock. Like I kind of like saw them as like almost like outcasts, and I still kind of view them that way. It's hilarious. Like 11 people in their troupe, and 2 of the guys are kind of like technical people. Like one of them is the director, but he also was in a lot of the sketches and things like that. And just genius writing. And they went on to do things like Reno 911, Wet Hot American Summer, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Joe Trulio's in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, a whole bunch of other stuff. It's Michael Ian Black, Michael Showalter, and David Wayne did Stella, which was hilarious as well. Which brings me to Stella Shorts. So Stella was a show that was aired on, I think it was Comedy Central. It only ran for like 1 or 2 seasons. And it was those 3 guys. It was Showalter, Michael Ian Black, and David Wayne. This is Stella Shorts. So this is all stuff that they did before then. These are like internet, almost like home videos. It's the first and only time I saw this DVD. I found it at Amoeba Records. I just picked it up. I mean, I had to. It's like there's no other option for me, man. This is some top-notch stuff right here. They didn't have to edit themselves, so there's some language and things like that in this. It's just real weird and out there, just crazy sketch comedy stuff. Next up, we got this thing right here. Tom Goes to the Mayor. This show is Tim and Eric. Before they were Tim and Eric, they had this show, and this show is just completely insane, as you could probably imagine. It's not as insane as Tim and Eric in that respect. It's these kind of like cartoonish, but they use like these really weird, let's see if you can see like the very grainy, like almost like photocopied animation where it doesn't move. They just kind of like change the, they'll change like the pictures for like each scene, but the people themselves like don't move. It's just you hear like voices, but the mouths don't move and stuff like that. It's kind of done on the cheap, but what makes it just insane is all the craziness that goes on in these episodes, and just all the characters that are in it. Like I think Bob Odenkirk produced it, but he's in quite a few from Mr. Show. I don't have Mr. Show DVDs because I can get those on HBO Max. Mr. Show is like another one of my favorite sketch things of all time. David Cross and Bob Odenkirk. It's insane. Just wacky. Just everything you would expect. But like, imagine like. Can't even like. Okay, so the premise is. I'll tell you the premise. So the premise is Eric Wareheim's the mayor, and Tom is this kind of like citizen who's always concerned about something. He knocks on the door, and the mayor, he always has these like pretty decent ideas, like kind of like good-hearted ideas. And the mayor always like says, "I like that idea, but you should do this instead." And it ends up backfiring on him. It's like very formulaic in every episode. And there's like I'm trying to think. There's like just insane stuff. You got to check it out. I can't really explain it other than that. Next up, we have one of my other favorite sketch comedy groups of all time, the UCB, Upright Citizens Brigade. Yay! It's these 4 guys. This is just very unchecked. It's almost like taking like the state to like the next level. Even more punk rock, even more kind of like aggressive type comedy. Some of the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. Stuff that I still quote to this day. Like the guy, there's like the one sketch where this guy says he has the titular line in Star Wars. Like it's just stuff like that. Just every time, like just keeps bringing me back. It's you may know or remember some of these guys. So probably the most famous person to come out of this is Amy Poehler, who went on to do SNL, and now she's pretty much herself. Amy Poehler, household name. Matt Besser, Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh is a character actor in a lot of films, a lot of comedy films. He's kind of in the background dude I point out every time. I'm like, there's Matt Walsh. Ian Roberts is the other guy. Besser is pretty funny too. He's got his own thing, and I think he worked with Poehler a little bit more after the show UCB. Season 3 of UCB is actually is being held up as well. Here's season 2. Season 3, yeah, that's for whatever reason the rights or the contract, hasn't allowed them to release the DVD set. Absolutely hilarious stuff. Very influential on me. This is actually all like 90s, like 99. Like I was like in high school, probably like a junior or senior in high school watching this stuff. Probably like a couple years after the State, a few years after the State. Sort of like a successor, stepping stone, probably like State, like Mr. Show, this, but sketch comedy is so influential on my life. I prefer it more than improv comedy. Improv comedy is funny. In college, I would go to improv comedy shows and things like that on campus. I was kind of an improv head. I actually tried out for improv groups. They didn't get it. Maybe I didn't get them. I don't know. But why not, right? My friends and I tried out. None of us made it. So next up, that's pretty much it for comedy. Next up, we have a genre that's kind of unto its own, and that's it's Sid and Marty Krofft stuff. So Sid and Marty Krofft, they did HR Puffin stuff, sort of the kind of like a psychedelic children's show, very odd and weird. Again, this is a cult television video. So this is like this is a sampler of their stuff. It's a 3-disc set. So on this, you got H&R Puffin stuff, you got Lidsville, Dr. Shrinker, Magic Mongo, Pryor's Place, Land of the Lost, The Lost Saucer, just all kinds of weird puppetry stuff going on, voices. Very specific to the time period that they were in. These are like 69, 70 and stuff like that. So World of Sid and Marty Krofft. This is kind of the cornerstone of that collection. It's Lidsville. It's the complete series. This is a extremely, extremely rare DVD. I think they sell for like $200 or something. Found this one for $6 at a Goodwill. It's why I do what I do. This goes in the collection. Sometimes I'll find the same and I'll sell them if I'm not interested in the material matter. But I think Lidsville is definitely one to keep just because it's so weird. So this is a keeper. And then found this one too at another thrift store. This is the complete run of the Sid and Marty Krofft Land of the Lost, which was eventually remade as a television show, children's television show in the 1990s that aired, like NBC in like Saturday morning cartoon style. The show was later remade into a movie starring Will Ferrell. It fell very flat. I don't think it did very well in either the box office or the secondary market. Home video. I see Land of the Lost, the Will Ferrell Land of the Lost DVDs all the time at thrift stores. But this is kind of the real deal, just because of the puppetry and all the costumes and weird kind of dinosaurs and stuff like that. Sleeve stacks and what have nots. It's good stuff. That's a keeper as well. Okay, so next I'm going to get into probably my favorite genre of cult television. So let's just get right into it. Science fiction. So this one is not really so much a whoa, hey, camera. Okay, this is what happens when I film in the garage. Everything goes nuts. This is not so much a science fiction as it is kind of a weird like mock news or mock reality stuff. This is In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy. The complete collection. I actually picked this up a couple years ago. Amazon had some new copies of this for like, I don't know, like $20. I was like, oh my god! But it's sort of like Unsolved Mysteries, but you know, each week there was a topic. Leonard Nimoy would kind of talk about it. It'd be like Sasquatch or aliens or stuff like that. So here's the whole collection, a whole in search of. So it's awesome. 6 seasons of it. Keep myself busy. I think they actually redid the show recently with Zachary Quinto, the guy who played Spock in all the Star Trek movies. I forget what channel that was on. I'll say like AMC or what's that other one? God, I always blink on this one. The one that Mr. Robot's on. Come on, Blake. It'll come to me. I want to say Universal, but that's not right. that's not a TV station. Next up, we got Lex. Okay, so Lex is this crazy, weird Canadian-German production science fiction show. The way I kind of discovered it was just trying something on a streaming service some number of years ago. I think it was on Netflix or something like that. I was like, oh, let's see what this is. Like, recommend it if you like, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, plug it in. I was like, what the hell? This is just some weird, bizarre stuff. Like, it's very, like, campy, weird, like, it's like overtly sexual humor in, like, every episode. They have some pretty well-known people on the show. I think, like, Rutger Hauer was in the first season of it. The first season's almost like set up like a movie, like a 4-part, like a 3-hour movie, essentially. It's about these kind of like this gang of kind of just ragtag gang of people that are flying around on this like sentient spaceship that's like a dragonfly that has the ability to destroy planets. I know it sounds crazy, but there's this warrior poet guy called Kai. Who he's part of this group or this like race of people called the Brunin G, and they have a fight song that they sing. Can't make it up. It's right in the show. So Lex season 1 is sort of that movie. Lex season 2 kind of plays into there's like an overall arc of they've switched over from the light universe to the dark universe, and then in series 3, here's where it starts getting really nutty and meta. So season 3 has to do more with like 2 planets that are kind of like warring with each other, fire and ice. It's kind of weird that there's like almost like a parallel between the George R.R. Martin's Tales, Song of Fire and Ice. But they have to the crew of the Lex is actually 4 people, so it's not like too many. They have to kind of help these societies, the planets get along. Season 4 is where it gets really, really nuts, where they all go back in time to Earth now, or forward in time, wherever they are in the universe. They to like present day Earth, but all the people that they've encountered in seasons 1 through 3 are like people on Earth. They're like different characters that have now taken the human form. It's very, very weird and meta. I think it's one that you'd have to watch like the whole series before you watch season 4. You can't just watch season 4 as a standalone, because like there's so many things you can miss because of that. I think it may be a hard watch for some people. I kind of put this one up with like if like Firefly is sort of like the basic version of this, right? I have actually a Firefly DVD set, but I didn't show it because it's not really, I don't really consider it a cult television show. Maybe Farscape. Farscape has like some similar thematics, and then of course like The Expanse now, but The Expanse is like its own thing because it's almost like a Dune or Game of Thrones, like not really. I think the mythology is like way better in The Expanse than the rest of this stuff. But this is just bizarre and just kind of crazy. Like I do recommend checking this out. There's just some weird stuff in this. I joined for a while like online just to see how many people were into this. Like there was not many people. I think there was like 500 people on the fan page for this show. I'm not even kidding. That was like nothing compared to how many people are fans of stuff now. Like people like cosplay this stuff, like, and I was just like, my mind was blown. I was like, okay, fine. There's something out there for everyone. But yeah, check out Lex if you're into something real weird and sci-fi. Next up, we got Space Rangers. This is a very short-lived sci-fi show. There's another one of like the fever dream stuff. Like I got like Space Precinct and like the Total Recall 2040 or whatever that show was called. Like where I just like fall asleep watching SNL and like wake up at like 1, 2 in the morning and like, what the hell is this? Like, and then I of course, like years later, I tried to go back and find what I was looking for. Back in the days when I fall asleep with the TV on, I don't do that quite anymore. This show, just a classic, just weird, campy, like just 9 hours of sci-fi, man. Just getting it done. Here you have, I believe her name's Diana Rigg in the front there. Linda Hunt, sorry, got the wrong lady. Linda Hunt. She played Shout-Out Mapes in the David Lynch Dune movie. You may remember her face right there. That lady right there, kind of unforgettable. Kind of like a character actor. And then just a whole bunch of other folks getting it done. Clint Howard's in it, so it can't be that bad. Space Rangers. This one's a personal favorite of mine, animated show, Voltron. I still consider the original to be a cult classic. Kind of had just a. I remember like being a kid and having not so much of a following, but I think like it's gotten more of a following over the years just because of its cultural impact. Like Wu-Tang Clan mentions them, and a whole bunch of other pop culture references. Like people say, like when you form up, that's Voltron. Like. So I think this is for me. It's just a fun show to watch. It's like very like early television memories. I think like 1985. I was probably watching this show. I remember, like when I was living in Illinois, the Super Bowl Shuffle. Like we recorded it off television, and the tape we had like my Voltron episodes on before it. So I remember like watching like thinking like I still have it in my mind like Voltron like leads up to the Super Bowl Shuffle. I know it sounds crazy, but Voltron's great. Each of the characters, it's like a 5 or 6 person crew for the Voltron robot. Each of them mans a lion. The lions form up to form a giant robot that fights other stuff. There's later carnations of it where the robot was formed through cars instead. It's sort of weak in my mind. I like the original just because the lions are cooler. Voltron, has like a steelbook set. This is a collection 1, Blue Lion. Don't have any other more of that stuff. Here we got, so more sci-fi television. Buck Rogers, the 70s sci-fi show. One of the, kind of at the time, I think what's unique about this is 50s and 60s sci-fi was like pretty samey. This is like right around the time of Star Wars when things were starting to get a little bit differentiated in terms of sci-fi output for television and film. This show harkens back to the old Buck Rogers stories and the serials and things like that, and comic books. It's just a fun thing to watch. Very, 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 very influential on Star Wars. At least the original was. This is a crazy amount of stuff. This is like 30 hours worth of stuff here. This is the complete go. Yeah, the complete epic series. So, yeah, Buck Rogers. Okay, so up next we have one of my favorite shows, and this is one that I refer to as a fever dream as well, only because when I was a child, a PBS affiliate would play it, and I would always when I was a kid, I'd watch like a lot of Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, 3-2-1 Contact, MathNet, things like that, whatever was on. And then, 1 o'clock would roll around, or I'd take a nap or eat lunch or whatever. 1 o'clock would roll around, TV would still be on sometimes, and this show would be on. Doctor Who, the original Doctor Who. So it just seemed to me like it was some weird thing, and like I still kind of have like from time to time like dreams and kind of like conceptions of like how like even the way it was filmed and just like the campiness of it all. Just just amazing. Like, and then you know, I didn't really think much of it. You know, I was kind of like a fan of it. Like when it was on, like I would watch it growing up, but I wasn't like a super fan until they started doing the. Well, I don't say I'm a super fan of the new stuff, but the new series came in. I want to say like around 2007. Could be wrong, but they're still doing that. Different doctors and things. The thing, it's been like a very very long running television show, and the reason is because they can keep changing the doctors into different incarnations of the Doctor. And they're currently on the first female Doctor, which is super cool. I love that. You know, I love that there's inclusivity, and you know, sci-fi can transcend. There doesn't have to be like hard and fast rules about who can be what. That's just awesome. All right, so I do collect Doctor Who stuff. Most of this was found in thrift stores. The thing I found, you know, more of these over the years that I've sold here and there. You know, things that I've watched and then have given away or whatever. But these are some ones that I hung on to just for whatever reason because of the titles or just the coolness. Here we have the very first one, the William Hartnell Doctor. This is stories number 1, 2, and 3, the very beginning. They have the Daleks actually in the second story, 7 episodes, Origin of the Daleks. So they're like they're like the main, you know, Doctor Who villain. People love them. I'm sure if you're like a super Doctor Who head, you'd be like, no man, it's all about the Cybermen. But I don't know. For Daleks are just fun because they're very one-minded and all they want to do is exterminate. And yeah, it's good stuff. The black and white series back in the day, and this was what, 63? Yeah, 63. It's been running. Wow. Who knows, man? Maybe 100 years. Maybe we'll see 100 years of Who by the time we're still around. This is a movie. Peter Grandmoff Tarkin Cushing playing the Doctor in Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD. This is what? How many minutes is this? 84 minutes. See what year it was. 66. Okay, so this came a little bit later. It's colorized. Good stuff. Cushing as the Doctor. I mean, who could go wrong with Cushing, man? He's the Grand Moff, man. Here we have the 3 Doctors. This is the Pertwee years, 70 through 74, story number 65. The 3 Doctors. There's a lot of like. They could refer to it as timey-wimey stuff in this. And they've even gone on to make fun of this stuff in like Community with Inspector Spacetime. I just think of that clip where the character of Abed is upset because he can't, I guess like his favorite show ended or something, and then one of the gals shows him like a 2-second clip of Inspector Spacetime. He goes, "This is the best show ever, my favorite show." Sort of how I kind of feel about the old classic Doctor Who, just because it's so like a lot of this stuff is just so campy, the monsters and stuff like that. So here's the 3 Doctors with Pertwee. We've got Tom Baker. I think this is like everyone's like favorite, like the old stuff. Like everyone's favorite incarnation of the Doctor is the Baker stuff. Again, if you're a super fan, you're like, no man, it's not punk rock. Like I'm a Pertwee guy. It really doesn't matter. I think a lot of this stuff is like very like it's just fun to watch. This one's the Robots of Death, $3. I bought it somewhere, thrift store probably, garage sale or something. And we have the Androids of Terra, same run. I think this was 90. Okay, so this is story 90. This is story 101. Then we have this is an interesting one. Is Paul McGann as the Doctor? This is his only one and only appearance as a Doctor. This is the Doctor Who the movie special edition. So this was actually in between the end of the television show run and the beginning of the new television show run. So the original television show ended in like 87, 88, maybe a little earlier. And the new one started, so this was like sometime in the 90s. It's like 94, 95, 96. when there's still, BBC realized there was still an interest for Doctor Who, or still a demand for Doctor Who. For me growing up in the 90s, like I didn't hear much about Doctor Who. I knew of him from watching him in the 80s and stuff on PBS, but it didn't really there wasn't really like this like fan culture, fan base around Doctor Who until the show started again in like 2007. All right, so that's the movie special edition. The last thing I have is a box set called Trial of a Time Lord. It's a Colin Baker years, 84, 86. Now, what I love about this is when I was probably like a 4 or 5 year old kid, like watching this at like 1 in the afternoon, like half asleep. So this is like very nostalgic for me. Stories number 144 through 147. Tom Baker, Doctor. Just classic stuff. I think people are kind of hate this story because it's long and kind of drawn out of the trial of the Time Lord. The Doctor from Gallifrey. There is really no Doctor Who. The main character is actually called the Doctor. So this guy who's able to converse through space and time through his machine called the TARDIS, acronym TARDIS. It's disguised as a police box on the outside. It's very basics of Doctor Who, but he has got all these great adventures like through medieval times and the far future, at the very end of the world, the very beginning of the world. So he's pretty much limitless in terms of the writing and the mythology of what you could do with a show like this. But yeah, this is the Colin Baker stuff that I kind of saw when I was a little kid. That kind of stuck with me all these years, and kind of the reason why I stayed on it. And I checked out the new stuff, and the new stuff's okay. I think I'm definitely more. I mean, there's certain of the new Doctors that I like more than others, but I think for me, like the older stuff is a little bit better, just because it's just more classic, like campy. Like there wasn't as much money that was involved in the production of it. It was more just for entertainment value, and the stories were, to me, the stories were a little better because of that. They weren't, there wasn't so much focus on the effects and things like that. It's more about the telling a story. And that's why I love all this stuff. All these fantastic cult films or cult television shows. Anyway, I hope you're all well. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, let me know. I'm happy to help. I'm here. I have all these useless facts in my head. If you want to check any of this stuff out, I'd recommend this stuff all down the list. It's just fun to watch and funny. For the most part, most of this stuff has some element of humor in it. Maybe not The Prisoner, but even then it has a little bit of humor in it. Twin Peaks definitely has humor in it, dark humor. So yeah, hope everyone's well, and we'll talk soon. See ya.